which is really thank you, which is really awesome for this first training. Thank y'all so much for taking the time out to join us and learn a little bit more about our new system, ZSuite. So first thing we're going to do is start with some expectations, a little note from Debbie, and then Erica will go ahead and take it from there. So Debbie, if you'd like to go ahead and start, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Good morning. Hey, how many of you didn't think this was going to happen October 1st? I was cautiously optimistic, and I gave a big ZSuite, ZSoft shout out because I said, well, I'd kind of like to make sure we have a couple months to learn the system, but these are all 4-H people. We know how to roll up our sleeves and figure things out. So I think you are going to be amazed by the system. I am. I had the chance a year ago to talk with ZSuites when I was in Iowa, and we would have been all over it if they had their animal ID ready. And I know that they'll jump on this as soon as that's ready, Erica. So it's a good system. I've had a couple questions. So it's open official October 1st. And I know the 4-H year here starts January 1st. But because it's been, going on 3 years since we've had a good, strong system, our family aren't in an official system. I want to go ahead and get our families, as soon as you get trained, be able to get your families logging into the system and feeling comfortable with the system. We won't do a rollover in January because they just got into the system in October. So we are giving them a little bit of extra time. It also protects us. So if you've got clubs that are meeting and they aren't in this system, it does, if they're not in the system, technically, if something happens, American Income Life, it's an issue with our insurance coverage. So we want to be as safe as we can to make sure that they're in an official system. And we did get them in Qualtrics, but we all know we can't actually access Qualtrics unless you're at the state office and we give you reports. So I ask that as soon as you feel comfortable being able to lead your families through enrollment, that you go ahead and get enrolled. And then we will just kind of keep trudging along that January 1st. It won't change our 4-H year dates or anything, but it gives you some time to learn the system, and it allows your families to learn the system. And it's in that non-stress time of October through December. And so maybe a good share of our families will be all enrolled and ready to go by January 1st. And that makes January 1st a lot less stressful time. So I am really excited. We have now 68 people, Emma, on the call. That's really great. Thank you for hanging tight as we tried to figure out a system that works. But I think you are going to be so excited once you get to dig into this system. I'm very excited. So I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. This is a phenomenal turnout for an initial staff training, and kudos to y'all. A couple things that I definitely want to start off with as the primary takeaways from today. One, you can't blow the system up. Just don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and play in the sandbox, because that's how your efficacy will improve with using the system. Two, there's no such thing as a bad question in our book. And three, you're supported. So I'm going to walk through where to find support materials, how to access chat, and walk you through the system, and understanding that, okay, we rolled into a new 4-H year, but there are elements to help you through that and to navigate that. And added, where I'm going to train from is the demo county. So the purpose of the demo county is to allow for y'all to go through the process of creating a hypothetical family. So what I mean by that is creating an adult volunteer profile, creating a youth member profile. And while their enrollment packets look very similar, there are constraints and some, additional waiver requirements that are expected for 4-H volunteers. So more importantly, that will help you also learn how to navigate the system, where to find information, how to pull reports, and just help you get a little accustomed to where the lay of the land is. And it allows you to create test accounts without adversely impacting your live county. Now, that being said, this is a great opportunity this time of the year, if you're not slammed with programming, to set up announcements. Set up your calendar. If you already have kind of your dates lined out for your 4-H year as far as weigh-ins, if you're going to do a county demonstration day, anything of that nature, that information should be added in. The sooner you advertise it, the sooner it marks on people's calendars, because when you make an event at the county level, that goes all to your levels of your households, be it directly to your volunteers. It'll also advertise for your members. So I'll walk through a lot of different things, but there's a lot of opportunity to mitigate the I don't know in this platform. And I come from ZSuite. ZSoft actually is the parent company for ZSuite, Clover Academy, and Zing Books. And Clover Academy is our LMS system. Zing Books is our online record books. But I come to this company with about 15 years experience in 4-H. I worked as a 4-H program coordinator in North Idaho for 8 years. I also worked at the state 4-H office and for the University of Idaho. So I'm familiar with administering systems. I've certainly walked a mile in y'all's boots. And so I really wish back in the day when I was doing this that I had a system like this. And so proof is in the pudding. And so we've, our company has only been in existence in this capacity. Our company got started for the request of a digital record book. And in 4 years, what I'm going to show you is where we've come. And does that mean what you're going to see today is what it is? No. So kind of holding true to that 4-H adage to make the best better, we're very much about moving the pulse point of this program forward to make it relevant, to make it responsive. But big pieces for us that's important to us as a core of a company is customer service, having useful tools, and getting your feedback. So if there's something wrong, I want to hear about it, and I don't want to hear about it through the rumor mill. Just like you don't want to get those things that happened in fair and find out about it 6 months later. No, that doesn't help us. So I understand that. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to kind of give you a lay of the land of what we're going to be reviewing here today. All right, so if you're keeping notes, I'll send a screen capture this, but I'm going to go through the support pieces and the help and where to find those tip sheets. I have a built-in repository. That being said, if there's items that you need a tip sheet on, let me know. I do the creations of those tip sheets. There's also tip videos. So those are already here, already waiting for you guys. And those are materials designed to help get you and your families up to speed as soon as possible. I'll walk through how to put your county newsletter. So again, you can go through how much you're spending on your newsletter to mailing it out, but you have a built-in tool to put your newsletter right in your county that goes to everybody in your county. I'll talk about clubs. We'll go through enrollments, touch briefly on events and what that means, and then the email tool. So you have the ability to schedule your emails in ZSuite. And you also have the ability to do away with boring, not branded emails. So they will have your university affirmative action statements on there. They will be branded. You can drill down who you send your emails to. Then we'll talk about reports. And as we go through, Emma will be tracking the chat box for us. But, as I transition to different touch points, please let me know if you have questions. Again, we're going to try to capitalize our time and get through as much as possible. But that being said, this is not the first training we will do. It certainly won't be the last. And I'm happy to do trainings. So if we need to come back and revisit and do a targeted training on events, which is very common, I'm totally okay with that. So your landing page for ZSuite is https://4h.zsuite.org. That's the main landing page. The hypothetical world of Arkansas is our demo, your guys' demo state, but more importantly, the demo county. That email address is ardemo@countyadmin.com, and the password is test. But I'm starting here first just with a couple basic tools. for the vast majority of your families in the state, they're going to click the sign up button. And what that does is that establishes the household and gets their initial footprint into the system. It's going to capture a primary email address that the whole entire household will use to access the system. It will also identify the primary email or mailing address, and a primary phone number, and then your state of affiliation. And once that's established, then their next step is to add household members and then to do enroll. And so we'll walk through that here in a second. But if a family is stuck right there, they can click here for help. There are tip sheets right at the surface level of the system to get them started. If your users, and let me move our little window here. If users in the lower right-hand area of your screen, you'll see this little blue circle. If somebody needs to make accessibility adjustments, they are able to do that straight away. So there are several adjustments that can be made as far as font sizes, how colors are saturated or not saturated, a whole wide variety of different settings that can be done. So we're going to go ahead and log in to the demo site. And so for household, they'll go into their household account, but for us, and this should look very similar to when you log into your own county, you're first taken to your dashboard, and your dashboard is kind of that overview of your county. It gives you the one-stop shop options, and it allows you to quickly get a view of club and volunteer enrollments. You can make announcements from this screen. You can add shared files. And so information that's coming down from the state office will appear in this window, and then anything that you set at the county level will be identified as a county. And to add a shared file, as an example, you just click add or delete shared files. And on these, you're going to upload PDFs. And you just click the green button, you add a title, you designate how long you want to show for. So if you have a new family handbook, you might want that to appear until the latter part of the summer. You may want it to appear for your whole 4-H year. You can have this information targeted to a specific project. So maybe you're wanting to share with your livestock club some tips on judging, if you're having a judging clinic that's coming up, or perhaps there's a open house at the vet clinic for your vet science kids. A wide variety of information can be shared here, but this information, when you can target who or what members are going to get this information, as well as volunteers, or you can designate which club you want the information to go to. So if you have project specific clubs, or if you have like a team leader club, you can target that communication to those audiences. So you can add your PDF, click save, and then that information will stay there until you want it to either come off of it, and it'll start building up an archive so that you can sort by upload date, or you can actually delete that information if you want. To make an announcement, it captures very briefly the who, what, when, where, why, and how. I have not maxed out the amount of characters in this box, but again, you can add a title, you can choose the club, you can choose if it also goes to the countywide. So again, this information will show at the household level, it'll show for your clubs. If you have volunteers that are club leaders, your organizational leaders, then the information will show very nicely for them. They can use that when they're making club announcements. And again, you can set how long that announcement will show up for. You have some basic text editing functions. You can change the font size. You can change the text color. You can also include a hyperlink. So if you cross-populate or cross-announce information on your website, or perhaps your Facebook page, you can create a link for that. Also on your dashboard, you get a very quick overview of event approvals, and you can toggle that to show just your county events. But if there are state events coming in the pipeline, you can turn that on. It will also show you where your pending and registrations are at, so you very quickly can access those registrations for approval. And then when you scroll down, you can view pending club member enrollments, and you can view pending volunteer enrollments. And I'm going to switch this back to previous 4-H year. I guess we don't have any, they're all active, but your pending member enrollments, if there was somebody that was here, you can just click on their name. You can view their 3 pieces to their enrollment. If you click edit requirements, then it would give you an approval component, but we'll go to enrollments here in a second. Any questions on the dashboard?
There is one. When we post an announcement, do the families get an email prompting them to log in and read it?
No, that's where cross media or perhaps sending a prompt in the email would be helpful for that. What your families will get an announcement in terms of email on is when their enrollment is submitted, when their enrollment is approved, and then as well as event registrations, event registration submitted, event registration approved. But we are working on adding some more email templates, but at this point, no, that is not prompted. But you could do a targeted email. We do also have SMS text messaging in the system, so you could send out an alert that way to your household saying, hey, this announcement's been made that you need to check out, or you can, as I said, put it in your email.
There's one more, Erica, just one
Sure.
more. Are we going to have to go in and approve every member to active like RegPack did? RegPack was our previous system.
Correct. So the purpose of having a database and monitoring enrollments is putting that onus on the individual families to get their children enrolled and or your volunteers in the system vetted and approved before they start engaging in program and in with youth. So it's very important that those enrollments are monitored. This year is a lot more information that we're going to be collecting from the household than what you will have to endure moving forward with the system. From here on out, it's going to be a matter of re-enrollment, and then new households will have to establish their household, but we're starting everybody from scratch. It is important to have the enrollment information because at any point a child can get hurt. And if that information is not captured, if parents haven't provided that consent, then that makes you liable. And so how we have had 4-H persist is capturing that information. It's a very critical part of doing the work that y'all do. Any other questions on the dashboard?
That's it in the chat.
Okay, great. So the next piece on your menu is manage accounts, and there's 3 elements, or actually 4 elements that are housed underneath there. Manage your clubs, manage your households, manage enrollments, managing group enrollments. So I'm going to touch on the enrollment piece just right now because enrollments are coming in for some of y'all. I'm very surprised to see, new state this quick on board. A lot of times it's a huge push. Okay, come on, let's go. But everybody has been very responsive thus far, which is great. So if you click on manage enrollments, and sometimes if the system sits and spins like this, Control F5 will help push that through. You're going to definitely want to make sure that you use Google Chrome as your browser. Don't use Microsoft Edge. That is not supported for us. So as a little side note, let me go. Okay, so depending on the enrollment status, red will be either in progress, inactive, green is active, and yellow is pending. But you can toggle your enrollment screen to enrollment status, and you can select whatever enrollment status you want. You can even, your pending payments are going to show up as blue, but you can toggle to active status. If you click on the child's name from this screen, so let's say parent calls you, okay, I want to make sure I add rabbits to my child's enrollment. You just click on the child's name, and this you're viewing as the parent right now, but you'll have your enrollment broken down here into 4 different components. So you have the personal information, which is capturing the child or the participant's name, or their personal information. For volunteers, it's the same, capturing their name, emergency contact information for youth. Biggie is, do mom and dad opt in to have SMS text messages sent to their child? For younger kids, I can see that being a no, but for your teenagers, yes. And identifying the appropriate cell phone number for that, identifying t-shirt size, contact information. For a youth, you're capturing parent guardian information. And then if necessary, a second household, also capturing emergency contact information, school information, and military service of family. That moves forward into the waivers. So there are several waivers for Arkansas. You have your code of conduct, your health form, consent for your publications, videos, and internet, and the release for that, equine activities waiver, and shooting sports. But any of the information that has an asterisk on it is required. The system is very good on, as the household's working through the enrollment, okay, this information's missing, but it's important as a county person to review these enrollments. Sometimes fields get missed. Want to make sure that the information is captured correctly. On the waivers, there is a requirement for the signatures and dates, and you can see here we have an asterisk. So if you try to move forward through this enrollment's already, well, it's in progress anyway, so you can navigate back and forth. But if you go to submit without having this information captured, it will prompt and say, hey, you can't submit that. But on the health information, it breaks down, okay, emergency contact information, cell phone, emergency contact parent number 2, cell phone, emergency contact not related to mom or dad or your guardian, their relationship, captures insurance information, their health breakdown, allergies, and if adaptations are needed, medications. And so then we get, okay, so mom called, says, I want to make sure I add rabbit. So we want to make sure that the child is identified in the right club. And then the second part to their club engagement is the project. And there is in every club that I don't know option. And for your new families, that's fine. If they're first year, not sure what they're going to engage in. And that's very common on the club piece, but the list of project offerings will populate. Add the project, and we need to click. In this case, the enrollment's still in progress. There's a lot of missing information, but you are able to save that information and come back to it later. If you were in, perhaps, let me see if I don't think I have anybody pending, but if all of the information is able to be reviewed, it says pending, and they're ready to be approved, there's a drop down, and you can change them to active status from the pencil menu here. So if they're pending approval, they would be yellow, in progress is red, but you're able to select add active once all of their information is complete. And you can see here on the member side, you'll get a delineation on this menu. When the enrollment was submitted, the primary club county, the primary club name. Enrollment comments and state comments are internal. They aren't visible to the household, so that's helpful if there's a notation that needs to be made on that. Any questions on the youth enrollment side?
There is one that says, I see there is a chance for the parent to opt in the child for text messages, but do the parents also have to opt in, or is it implied that they will get the messages?
So there is on this household setting, and that's a great segue to that. This green eye will allow you to view as the household from the primary account in the system and your live system. You will see an announcement here. Do you want to opt in to text messaging? And the text messaging by default goes to the household. Adding in that added layer, particularly on the enrollment side, is the only way we can identify phone numbers for your teenagers, as well as cell phone numbers for spouses. So inevitably, your adult volunteers like to offer up as little information as possible. And so a lot of times you'll see the same email address, which is fine, but that becomes a little problematic on the background screen side. And so identifying a separate cell phone and having those accounts broken out helps on that front. But by default, the text messages will go to mom and dad. It will go to the primary household telephone number that's identified. So I hope that answers that question. Any other questions on the enrollment side?
Nope, I had one that I answered, but just to bring it to everybody's attention in case you're not paying attention in chat, will clubs be preloaded or will the parents type in a club name? The clubs are preloaded. Erica and I took care of that. And there's also I do not know option to select as well in case they just moved and they're not sure, but they're getting enrolled. So they don't have to worry about just leaving and not enrolling because they don't know the club. So just wanted to bring that to your attention as well.
So let me go back to just briefly on the volunteer enrollments. The big caveat and the difference between youth enrollment and volunteer enrollments. Yes, there's a difference in the information that's captured, but the primary difference is this breakdown on how the information presents itself in the menu. So anything that appears here is an enrollment requirement. So obviously the background screen is required and the mandated reporting training. Both of those fields have to have a date before the enrollment can be approved active status. Now, given that we're bringing forward, you know, we have volunteers that are returning right now. So as those enrollments come in, monitor that where you can delineate new volunteers versus returning volunteers. If you know an individual has a background check, have that subset of information at a very easily accessible location. So that way you can populate that field, help them move through that. And if you have also that date for that they took the mandated reporting training previously, that can be entered in there. If not, they're not able to move to active status until those requirements are met. If you have individuals that are shooting sports instructors, this is just a text field. It's not a date field, but it'll allow you to capture the discipline or disciplines that they're in and those respective training dates. So that way that can be linked to that enrollment. We are the parent company or the parent site for National Shooting Sports Trainings and that site where the volunteers complete those trainings on. But one of the things we are working on is bringing over that reporting so that you all have a clearer picture. But in the interim, that is the workaround to capture those dates.
Erica, there are a couple questions if we could pause for just a minute.
Sure.
One question, and in regards to what we were just talking about, is do we have to put those dates or will the state office? I mean, surely they have the ability to.
It can be done at both levels.
Okay. And then do we have the ability to edit, add, delete clubs for our county? I thought that was a good question to address.
So, and that's a great segue. So on your manage accounts tab at the county level, you are the gateway on your clubs. And as Emma had mentioned, she and I went through what was reported on the club list. And if a club needs to be deleted, if there isn't an enrollment tied to it, it's a good time to delete that club, or you can edit the name. And then you can also add a club. So if clubs are needing to be added, it's just a matter of adding the green add club, entering in the title. It defaults to a community club. If it's an in-school or after-school, there is a sub menu to change the club type. And by default, it'll change that club to active status. If it's a community club, then there should be a club is chartered, and that will bring up additional information as far as the date it was chartered. You can identify when the club was started. The biggie when you add in your club is to making sure that that club is set to public. If it's not set to public, then it will not be viewable to your families. If it is a club that's going to offer specific projects, then instead of having the whole entire state project list populate, you can identify or delineate what projects are being offered. And this is a great way of drilling down, especially for your clover buds. You can set, okay, this club only offers clover bud projects, and you can reinforce that by adding a minimum age and a maximum age as well. Age and grade tandem, that tends to kind of contradict itself, and it gets very, very finicky as far as the age calculator. And it's, I've definitely ran into that, drilling down an age requirement, particularly on age and grade. That has happened in a couple of events. So just setting the age requirement component tends to add in those restrictions if you want to make sure that that club is only open to 5 to 7 year olds, or conversely, if you have that a club that is set just strictly for your older 4-H kids that are perhaps team leaders, you can set those age parameters, and that will work. Oh, and then you can also add one step further. If it's a club that's youth club only, you can check if it's just limited to a certain type. If it's unchecked, then it will be visible to both youth and adults.
Okay.
Other questions on the clubs?
We've got quite a few questions coming in here. So I don't know if you want to finish your content and then do like a Q&A at the end, or if you want me
Sure. Yeah, we got quite a bit to touch on here. So we touched on enrollments, we touched on clubs. To view as a household, you can search by last name. If you keep this toggled off, it'll pull up everybody, but this is a great way. The view as will take you directly. So this is what, once your families get their little profiles set up, this is what they will see. There will be, and not all of this, but they will see their volunteer profiles. They'll see club member profiles. The biggie and the gateway for your households is the primary account is where enrollment occurs, and it also is the gateway for event registration. And so as enrollments come in, then they will be able to view their enrollments, or in this case, it'll prompt them to enroll now. And since we're in a new 4-H year, we need to re-enroll. Let's see. And so that can walk them through their steps, but that's a great way where you can see, okay, and you can just, it gives you an added layer as families call you in with questions, or what am I seeing or not seeing? You can help troubleshoot that. Group enrollments, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it is very easy. Your group enrollment form is already added. The kicker is your total number of participants includes 4-H and non-4-H. Non-4-H can be non-4-H members, or it could be the general public, but it definitely wants to capture that total number of youth. And then it's very clear here, total number of male participants, both audiences, then how many of these were enrolled 4-H members and how many were not. And your not is what's going to carry forward in your reporting on that. And we could definitely spend complete training on group enrollments, but if you have questions as you're doing programming, I'm a big fan of report it while you do your programming. Don't stockpile it to the end of the year. Just do it while you go through your programs. But this should all look very familiar if you've done any kind of group enrollment type of ES 237 components in the past. Newsletter, very easy. Again, a PDF, add in your title of your newsletter, add in your file, click save. You can build a library of these. So if you have your county newsletters, and then you're also maybe having a dedicated fair newsletter, you can add that information in. And if you want it to go away, simply click the trash can and your newsletter will go away. And again, this populates for everybody in your household. Templates, the templates icon, allows you to very easily pull a blank waiver of any of your waivers that you need. If you need a blank copy, it's there for you to pull up. If somebody perhaps is needing to get that information captured, maybe they don't have internet at home, but you can pull basically the basic information for your packet for the enrollment. You can pull up the waivers and allows you to key that family in without further ado. Calendar. Your calendar populates at the county view with your county events. Red events are red, or state events are going to appear for you as red. And if we get the bug fixed, your club events will show up as green. Right now at the household or club level, it is going to get the information for their club. It will also pull your information at the county level. It will also pull the information from the state level. But how you get those events to appear is we click create new event, and it's create an event without registration. So that will take this down to 2 components. Depending on how or the source of the account that is creating the event, that will be the default that information or questions will go to. But if there's somebody else that needs to be identified to answer questions, you can add their email. But you're basically given an option to add an image, add the event name, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And again, you have the option to add in a link on where information could be found, or if you need to back that up with your website. You can identify if this is an all-day event, and if not, what the start time and the end time is. And then where the event is located, you can set if this is a county-wide event, if it's a multi-county or multi-club event, or statewide, who the contact information is, or person, phone and email of the contact person. And then what kind of event? So is it a short-term special interest? Is it a day camp? Is it a program using TV, web, video? So those are all your ES 237 reporting fields. And then you have an option to add any support material. Maybe you've created a flyer, add the PDF there. And then if it's something where, okay, I need to do initial touch point on this, but I'm still missing some information, you can save it as a draft. I definitely do recommend doing that. Save it as a draft until you make sure you have all the I's dotted, T's crossed. And then once you hit publish, then that will push it out on the calendars. If you're doing a countywide event where registration is required, then the first step is to check that box. And you'll notice that the 2-step process turns into a 5-step process. So similar components as far as the first part, capturing the overlay of the information, what kind of event it is, and if there's an entry fee for the event. Some options here that you will see that are kind of critical. Allow volunteer registration. If that is allowed, you need to check that box, or if you're expecting a volunteer audience to engage with the event. Enrollment required means, okay, the participants need to be registered in ZSuite. They're our internal 4-H audience. If you're doing an event that's perhaps open to the general public or open to FFA, then you would uncheck that box and check allow participants without a ZSuite account to register. And once your event is created, an external registration link is created. The big caveat on that is just making sure that that event is built with the appropriate line of questioning that's needed for those external audiences. So we'll work with you on how to do that, but that option is there. For the most part, you're going to have these internal, but to register for an event, youth and adults have to be active status. And again, the registration for youth or adults is through that primary household account. Your registration form. So the nice thing with having and capturing enrollment information in a system and having this part integrated is that when you get to this part of the form, you're getting to the meat and potatoes to do this event. And so there's a wide variety of fields that can be added, whether it's a multi-select, single select. If you're doing like a horse show, you can have fee-based fields. So Again, I can do a dedicated training on events. In the interest of time, I'm just briefly touching on this. Your registration documents, another great part of having this integrated is that instead of having to regenerate all of your waivers, we're just doing a waiver confirmation. And so where you're going to see this a lot is with your overnight camps. You can confirm the health. Actually, you can confirm any of your waivers that you have in the repository. But your frequent flyer is going to be the health form, and then typically an added component to the event registration itself will be the administering any over meds, any types of things that for that overnight stay. But all of your waivers are already in here so that it's just confirmation. Okay, is this information correct? Let's capture any changes that we need to. And then you're not having to reinvent the wheel on that front. Can also add in payment adjustments. So this captures for any scholarships that may be applicable to a club, to a project type, to perhaps just adults or to youth. And then again, your email settings, and then you have the ability registration submitted or registration confirmed. So I know there's going to be a lot of questions on the event side, but that's okay. On the county settings side, you have some options. You can disable household self-enrollment. You want to encourage people to enroll, but the later we get into next year to roll over for a new year, especially leading up to fair, we have a enrollment timeline for fair, and so that's okay. A lot of counties do set a project add drop deadline. Again, making sure we have those project types created, and then if there's county-based projects, you can add those projects in. Let's see here. On your live site, you will have the MailJet, and I'm going to hop over into that right now, just so you can kind of get a look and feel of what that looks like. Actually, I don't know why that's. I'll have to check with Jake on that to fix that. But what you will see once it's turned on is a tab called email. Your first step is create your list on who you want to send your information to. And I will show you here in the where we have this all set up in our tip sheets. But on the MailJet side, the very cool part of this system is you have the ability to create your templates, who you send your emails out to are called campaigns, or as you send a series of emails, though, you start building a repository of campaigns. But as I mentioned, you have the ability to create a template. Once your template is created, you can use it, or you can modify your templates depending on your audience, but you have the ability to add in your company logo or university logo. You can add in the who, what, when, why, and where. You can add photos. You can add hyperlinks. You can add video. There's a lot of options with that. And then as you go through your campaigns, you will get the metrics of emails that are sent. You'll get a breakdown of what was sent. Sent, dropped, bounced, returned, and that will help you monitor your good working email addresses versus bad emails. So anyway, and you can also compare your campaigns, and as you send out more information, you can compare okay, what's working, not working in terms of reaching your audiences and so forth. Let me go back. Okay, help repository. So there's a couple things on the help repository. So if you just, from your county admin, you can launch the help library. There is a dedicated section for county admins, and it goes through a lion's share of a lot of what we added or discussed already today: adding files, approving volunteers, approving club members, making announcements, managing your households. I have a definite dedicated section on reports and the difference in our reports. I could spend a whole training on that. And then a couple tips. So ZSuite is not app driven, it's web-based driven, but you can use the platform on your phone, and kiddos are a big fan of that. Given how much information we capture when new families, or in this case, a new state is coming on board, I highly recommend getting through the enrollment this year and doing that on a laptop, desktop, just to be on the safe side. It is responsive, it'll work on tablets, but there's just so much information. It really gets to be a lot, not just a little, it's a lot to do on a phone, but you can do a mobile shortcut, and that'll allow you to very quickly access the site on your phone if needed. Let's see. Last thing I wanted to touch on is reports. So we have a wide variety of reports in the system. Account information, active counts by clubs. You can do a separate report just to pull out your adult members. Club details. We have a stock report for mailing labels. So you can sort that by zip code. You can sort by last name. You can do this to their enrollment status. So if you want to target, this is helpful moving forward, as far as different enrollment statuses. You can specify one label per address. You can drill down your mailing labels to club member or volunteer. You can also do it directed towards club or to project types. There's household details report, additional contacts report. If you're curious on kiddos that are participating, or perhaps volunteers that are in dual county, so if you're on a county line, not sure on who's engaging how, you can certainly pull the dual county or dual member report. You can pull up household additional contacts. You can do household details. And as information comes forward, you can do project information reports, project leader reports, and then also pulling volunteer or member waivers. And it'll allow you to specify club. You can also specify which waiver, but you can pull the report. And then you can download that. A lot of these reports you can download as a CSV, or download as a CSV. So I've covered a lot of information. I want to leave a little bit of time to answer questions. I see that we have a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and get to questions. But thank you, everybody, first and foremost on this.
Yeah, we do. And one thing to keep in mind is that this is just the very first training. So this is going to be recorded. There are more trainings to come. We are going to do a training specifically on events, so y'all can take a deep breath and know that there is more support to come. But there were quite a few questions in the chat, and I pulled them off and put them in a Word doc in order that we received them. So Erica, I'll just go ahead and shoot these off at you. I already have a parent who signed up as a volunteer. Do we have a way to label her as a parent, or should I return her enrollment or archive her?
So I just let me know who that is. We can identify parents and we can identify her in the household, but I can manage that. If you get folks that And that's common. If we have parents that sign up as a volunteer, we can change that. And then if at any point the parent decides to become a volunteer, it's very easy to roll them up. But that's an easy fix that I can do on that.
Okay, so is the best way for them to get a hold of you to do that to hop in the chat? Is
Yeah.
that the way to
Yep.
contact? Okay.
So, and that's a great segue. As you're working through your live state, once you get into the login screen on the lower right-hand corner next to the accessibility icon, chat support is Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, and that's facilitated by myself and Jake. If it's something that comes in over the weekend or after hours, that goes to email, and we address that the next business day. So again, if there's any questions, I know I've thrown a lot of information at y'all today, but as you guys are navigating your enrollments, that's what we're here for. We're here to help. And again, there's no such thing as a bad question. We're happy to take a look at those things. And with the case of the parents that submit an enrollment, it's easier just for us to do that. There's a couple administrative side things we can do and make sure we capture them in the household A, but then also make sure that we can keep them tied to the correct household.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Will the leaders have club access where they can approve members?
So club leaders, if they're identified as such, yes, have access. They have their own little sub menu that will give them a dashboard. Their approval does not supersede your approval. You are the gateway for all enrollments. All they're going to confirm is X, Y, and that this individual, be it youth or adult, is a member of that club. So you're the person that's managing the enrollment side, but we can certainly, we're in a little bit of a crunch on time, but that's another thing I can touch on the next training. But yes, they're able to, with a club leader view, they get to view the youth and adults that are part of their club. They can set up little events. And what I mean by that is a very brief who, what, when, where with a little picture, and that will populate on the calendar for their members as far as when their club meetings are held. They have access to reports, and they also get an overview of engagement in respective projects for that club. Great question.
It is a great question. We've already touched on this, but I'm going to ask it. Is there also going to be an option to have parents marked as parents and volunteers?
Not on the enrollment form, but parents would provide the consent on their child's enrollment. And then if they are also serving as a volunteer in the same household, they would generate their own little profile, and then they'd also submit their own enrollment.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm copying and pasting these as I get them.
So, and I guess back to that, there's no need to identify them as a parent. They have the volunteer profile, and then parents and another layer to that is parents and guardians are identified more in detail in the child's enrollment. So there doesn't have to be an overlay of a parent touch point or a parent profile on top of their volunteer enrollment.
Thank you. Do leaders have access to their membership?
Yes, they do. So that would be club leaders. At this point, project leaders don't get as robust of detail. So as a county admin, there are reports that you can pull that are very centric to project engagement. Those club volunteers, though, can also provide those reports for the project leaders in their clubs. So that is a dual fold, but we are working on that project leader capacity so they can log in. And again, that's tied to their volunteer profile. And then they can get those pieces of information in for their clubs.
Okay, I'm going to shoot off to this question because this pertains to volunteers before I keep going. What if you have a volunteer leader that volunteers in 2 counties?
So then they need to identify what club is primary. In their drop-down menu. They are able to select the different county that they're in, and then just let us know who that volunteer is to make sure if they're a club leader in both counties, then we want to make sure that they're getting that menu to appear properly for them. But if they're only like primary leader in one county, then just making sure that that primary club is set and they're identified as such.
Okay. Let's go back to our questions from before. Can we enroll from paper enrollments from our school clubs?
You can key those in as a county admin. You would set up their household, and once you set up their household, that would be the first step. And then from there, then you can go through and work through and adding in those individuals' profiles. But you're going to want to make sure that you have a valid working email address and mailing address for those households, and telephone number as well. So if some of that initial information can be added in, but the gateway to establish that household really is critical to have the phone number, address, and email address. So yes.
Okay. I got a direct message to me, but I want to address it to the group in case this is a bigger issue. I have already started trying to get kids enrolled. I think I'm at 14, which is great. But their 4-H age is wrong. It is showing what age they are turning this year, not their age on January 1. For example, this 4-H'er's age is 17, but in the system it's showing 18.
Okay, that is a problem because it should be showing their 4-H age.
I wanted to bring that up to you while we.
Okay. So who is the? Do we have a name?
We do have a name. Let me see. Yeah, it is Kim. Kim, I'm not entirely sure how to say your last name. Fraser? So sorry.
Okay, just
I'm going to send it to you.
Send me an email on that. But yeah, we'll need to check that.
Okay.
The 4-H age should be as of January 1.
Okay. When we upload a newsletter, is there a way from ZSuite to email that newsletter out?
So on your MailJet, you can actually create a hyperlink. We're not able to do a direct attachment, but that can be embedded as a link in the email itself, and that is covered in the tip sheets.
Okay. My staff chair is also set up as an administrator, but doesn't necessarily want to receive an email every time someone enrolls. Is there a way to edit his notifications?
Yes. So you would go to you would do a view. Actually, I have to do that. I have to set your county admin settings. So just let me know who that individual is and I can opt them out of those settings.
Okay. All right.
But that does bring a good point. If there are other folks that were maybe perhaps not identified as far as needing an admin login, we don't do shared email addresses and logins. I haven't really had as more of a crazy lockout per se. It has been known to happen, but with the previous system, I had a county lock themselves out for 3 days. So if there are folks that need to be provided access, that's no problem. I just need their email address and let me know. And at this juncture, there isn't a way to set like as far as what information a county admin can see, but as you have staffing turnover, that type of thing, please keep us aware. If staff are no longer affiliated with your respective counties, that helps us keep a cleaner admin database. I just saw that question pop up on the bottom. There are no restrictions as far as admins accessing your county at the same time. It does get a little sticky accessing the same account or same touch point in the system as far as within a respective enrollment, but no problems as far as more than one person being logged in for your county at the same time.
All right. There's one more here that I can see. How do you handle a transfer from one county to the other?
So if you need to transfer somebody, we do that on our side for y'all. We can also transfer to different states if necessary. Just start up a chat with us and we're happy to assist you on that. That's not a problem. It does get a little problematic going to California or out of California. There's some steps we need to do on that, but just let us know.
Okay. Anybody else? You can hop into the chat, you can unmute, however you feel comfortable. I think if I missed any in the chat, I don't think I did. But if I did, let me know and we'll get your question answered. It is 11 on the dot. Great job timing.
And again, there's no such thing as a bad question. There's been a lot of information to process. I covered a lot. I really thank you all for just this wonderful turnout for today, and given
Yeah.
that, Tuesdays sometimes act like Mondays, and I'm so excited to have y'all on board. But we're here to help y'all, and want you and wholeheartedly encourage you to use the system, encourage your families to get in, and if you have any questions, please let us know.
Hey, I actually have a question. I think this one is more towards Emma. When we go to let these families know that the site is live, we finally have an enrollment system after a year, what is the best way to announce that on Facebook? Like, do we put a link? Have you done that yet?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a link to the landing page, right, is going to be good. I sent out that help sheet for families. That was on yesterday's email. That's an attachment. That would be good to include that as well. And then I can even write up a little template if that would be helpful for mass communication, and send that y'all's way. But does that help answer your question?
Yeah, I was waiting to launch or to send that out that it's live, it's launched until the training today and figure out what's the best way to let my families know. That way they can get enrolled for next year.
Right. Yeah. I think however you get a hold of them, the best way that the line of communication that you have now, y'all know your families, y'all know the best way to reach out to them. So go forth and do. We've got some last minute things here. Ashley also came in and said she can create some graphics for social media as well, which would be a really awesome push for y'all. So I'll get with her on that. And then Erica, there's another question that says, does a family member have access to a chat with you and your staff, or will they contact them in the county?
So at this juncture, your families will contact you, then you can contact us. I'm not sure if that will be going back to full family support at any point soon. And the reason why I was requested to deviate back to that is that a lot of the county staff felt like that was just going to be an easy way for families to not stay in the loop with y'all. And that was requested from state admins. But at this point, they will be reaching out to you as they should. And then if there's anything, there is no such thing as a bad question in my book. So whatever y'all need answered, submit a chat, or if it's after hours, do an email with us. That is, that keeps us aware of the pipeline. And if there's truly an issue that we need to resolve too, then that puts us on the no. If folks, so we have been still pushing up a lot of code. So if folks report a spin or page isn't loading, for best results, again, use Google Chrome. Our site is not supporting Microsoft Edge. But if folks experience a slowdown, Control F5 to do a force push. There is a tip sheet in the help library for a Mac. I think it's Command Shift R. And then if worst comes to worst, have folks clear out their browser cache. So the big piece on the browser cache, if they have a huge repository in there at a certain point, as they start using the system, it will prevent site changes from being experienced. But Control F5 will resolve the stick. And people also need to clear their browser cache on their cell phones too. So asking them what device they're using is a pretty good, frequent flyer question. Like, okay, how are you accessing the system? Are you using a cell phone, laptop? And if all else fails, pull us in and we can liaison that conversation as you're visiting with your families.
All right. Well, we are at 11:04. So Erica, we will let you go. I know you're very busy. We are not the only state that Erica has. So thank y'all so much again for hopping on today. I can't say thank you enough. We will see y'all in coming trainings, and communication will continue from me. And so y'all keep